And how about business? Let's talk about business.
Yeah. Well, when
Our favorite subject.
Yes. Well, when we started working together, I had no business. I had just literally was just starting my business officially.
And you quit your job, right? You quit your job right there because you decided to start your business, and you made that leap of faith. You already made that leap of faith. You were so directly, let's start with a clean slate. Let's get rid of the job and let's start the business, and then let's start the spiritual work at the same time. You were smart. You are smart.
Yeah. It was intentional. It was guided, and it worked out how it was meant to work out. But yeah, it was a business that I had been doing on a part-time basis for a lot of years, but to quit the steady job, the steady paycheck, it's a whole nother ball game, as we know. So that's what I had done literally right before we started working together. And so, yeah, at that time, I basically had no real business yet. And now I have 3 businesses.
And you were by yourself at that time, right? Nobody was supporting you. So that's huge. So we should celebrate this moment too as well, because a lot of people are scared because what am I going to do? Will my business survive? Will I be able to provide myself? And you did it beautifully over the years. So how is your business improved? Is there any results that you can talk to us about?
Oh yeah. Well, there's lots. I mean, if we go into maybe the money part, I guess, because a lot of people, I think they think business money.
Uh-huh.
So, was starting my own business, so I was worried a lot about money. It's kind of natural, you don't have that steady paycheck anymore that you're used to having for years. But as I progressed through the journey, my faith really grew. And so I went really from worry to faith, and also starting your own business the way that most people are taught is to hustle. And that's, of course, conditioning and teaching and all of that. And that's that was my mindset at the beginning. But then again, through the journey, I learned that God always provides. And I learned that very humbly, but in a very good way and a very miraculous way.
Because you can't learn it by reading books, because you will not get it to faith. Your faith will not grow if you just mentally exercising it, like reading a book, going to a conference maybe, and they're telling you, oh, you can follow your dreams, oh, you can achieve everything you want, and then you come back and you don't have this yet, right? And of course worry comes up. So you have to learn it first. You have to take it to your heart. And you
absolutely did. Yes. And I have so many miracles in that way. And also how clients would come to me. And they always have in a very miraculous way. So I built my business from the ground up with a spiritual foundation, and it's really cool.
Right. That's right. And you said you started with a hustle. Do you hustle now?
No, I don't think I barely ever really did. Maybe the first year or so, but it takes time to unravel that conditioning and build the faith.
Right,
but
exactly.
But yeah, no, I don't hustle at all.
how do we call you? The Queenie.
The Queenie. Yeah.
The Queenie. Who always has the money to do whatever she wants to do. And she doesn't hustle because she's in the flow. So how does it feel to be in the flow?
Oh, it's amazing. It's the business I always wanted. I mean, when I was first starting out in my business, people were constantly in my ear telling me, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. If you don't do it this way, you're not going to be successful. And that was, I mean, even people close to me were doubting me and they were telling me that I wasn't going to make it work. And I knew there was another way. I knew that business was for me. And I was determined to do it a different way. And this was before, people now, it's very mainstream to talk about doing business using our feminine energy. And like, that's a really common phrase, or people saying that they're,
not when we started.
Right. Talking about this topic of not hustling. This was a very taboo thing to say when we started. Now it's super mainstream. Everybody talks about it, but I mean, not then. And so people were in my face telling me that I was not going to succeed. And I just knew that business, like I said, was meant for me. And I knew that I could do it this way, meaning in the flow. And I was just determined, and that's all I could see. That was my vision. And I was doing the work. I was doing the daily work, meaning the spiritual work, to actually make that a reality. And I did.
And amazing, we have experienced so many miracles, as you already mentioned. And those miracles were small and big, because we had all range of them, right? So one of the miracles I would like to point out was, like, after a session, we just had one session. And how about that example? You can share some maybe details about a person, a buyer who was buying a house. I think she was buying a house, or maybe selling, I don't know, buying, I think. And her credit was messed up. And then what happened? Can you just, in generally, what miracle happened right after the session?
Yeah, we had several of these types of scenarios where the issue would get released during the session and then matrix would completely shift. So in this specific example, there was a buyer who, there was something, an issue with their credit that came up at the very 11th hour, right before we were supposed to close. Like, I mean, this was a few years ago. I don't remember the exact details, but a few days before or something like that. And then the lender had said, this is something that could potentially take up to 30 days to resolve. And we might have had to extend our close of escrow and, all the things that come with that, the last 11th hour, not pleasing for any party in the transaction. And then right after the session, I get a phone call that miracle happened and the issue was cleared and we were able to still close on time.
Huge miracle, because it affected everybody. It was win-win for everybody.
Yep.
Right.
And that's what we need in these transactions. We need win-wins for everybody. So
exactly. And that's how we do business. Win-win for everybody. That's the way, the spiritual way of doing business. And it didn't happen just once, right? As you mentioned, it happened several times. So a miracle has been proven on a regular basis that it happens when we work on it, and it just miracle happens, everything clears and divine flow is established and gets us to the desired result, win-win for everybody. You have your business mentors, we already talked about it, and you also on the spiritual path. Well, you're repeating this with other people. So you have your own US business coach and you have your own clients, and you referred some clients of yours to me, and those who chose to work with me, they actually, everybody you referred, they chose to work with me. So at the same time, they're working with you. So they're, in our opinion, right, in our eyes, they're very lucky because they have the best of the both worlds, business training and spiritual, and we speak the same language. We speak business and spiritual in the same way. So it's very consistent here. But my question is, why did you do it? Why did you refer your clients to me?
Yes. So great question. I very strongly believe that in order to be successful in the outside world, in business or anything in the outside world, we can really only do that the best way by being on a spiritual journey. So combining, as I have done, the two together, I believe that more people should do that. So that's why I have sent a few people your way, a few clients your way.
And we both watched, because we're all together here, we both watched how these clients progress tremendously, right, in life and in business, because they're receiving both. They're receiving business coaching and spiritual training at the same time, spiritual work. So give us a result. So at the end, so one particular client, we won't say who, but we just say a client, she started working with you. She was brand new, no leads, no anything, right? And what did she end up at the end of all of this?
With multiple clients in a very short period of time. And so an increase of clients, increase of money, and it's a direct result of all of the work holistically. And it's a great win for the client, for you, for me. It's just wonderful to see that transformation, and that's what's so exciting, because you
Exactly.
can see the result of having both, having the spiritual practice along with the business together.
Exactly. And that's what we practice here. Exactly that. Again, spiritual mastery of the material world, and bringing together both worlds together, the material, the physical, and the spiritual at the same time. Oops, at the same time. I like my doing this with the microphone. And the next question I would like to ask you, you mentioned before, I think you even said it long time ago when I didn't even know it myself at that time, but you started saying that I am teaching very differently about money than other mentors, because you came from that world and people do teach about money all the time, everywhere, right? And you kept saying to me that I'm approaching the subject very differently. So can you elaborate on that? What's the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main difference, there's many differences, but the main difference is really learning. And when I say learning, I don't mean learning here. I mean really getting the knowing deep inside, that to not be fearful of money, to not be worried when the money is coming, how much, where. That's that faith journey, and applying it specifically to money. And it's just, yes, the abundance will come, yes, the increase will come, but it's not specifically about the increase per se. It's that training that spiritual muscle to walk in faith and trust, and that will be provided for. That's the practice that's very, very, very different. And again, it's not a mindset thing, it's an internal knowing, which makes it very different from anything that I've experienced before. I think I mentioned it earlier, but it applies here as well, that someone could have, a net worth of multi-millions, billions, but if they're still in fear, it's not the amount that matters. It's what is your relationship with money? How do you handle money on a spiritual level, which is very, very different when we're working together.
Right. Right. Thank you. Very good. Yeah. You said it well. Okay, we're done. So I'll stop recording again.
So we're starting like all over again for the signs?
Okay. There were points. So what I always teach and preach and live and show and model and everything, we say here in our Reading Master Academy, decision first and money will follow, right? So how does it apply to your life? What about decision first and money will follow? Because an example would be, you have to, like I mentioned before, you've been with me for so many years. And obviously you have to renew when your round ends, and you constantly, not again constantly, but you have to make a decision again. Do I want to continue or I want to stop? Because some clients stopped after a couple of years, you continued with so many years. So how, and sometimes the life is different. I mean, life is life. Sometimes we have the money and sometimes we don't have the money, but you still have to continue. So how do you handle this?
Yeah. So, of course, like you said, over the 7 years, there's been several renewals, and it's been a journey, especially at the beginning. There were times where, the money wasn't necessarily just sitting there ready to go, right?
In fact, when you started, when you quit your job, no business yet, you're just having a plan to have your business. Nobody is there to support you. You don't want to ask money for support from parents, right? So that's a tough spot to be in. And instead of going to another job or trying to hustle with the business and try to make money, what did you do? You came for spiritual work. That's quite an amazing pivot, right? From focusing on the business like everybody else would do. Let me get the money first, then I will think about spiritual. You did the opposite, and you did the right thing, as we can see so many years later.
Yeah. I mean, I quit my job, like you said, no support. And I had a couple months of savings. And I would say most people would say that they need to hold on to that, or they need to spend it maybe directly into their business, let's say. I went the other way.
Exactly.
I like to do the opposite of what most people do. Usually that gets me the results I want. So, but as far as making the decision each time, I look at working with you like how most people would look at tithing, right? So the concept of tithing is you tithing. What is tithe? It's your first fruits. It's the first 10% off of what you make, and you immediately give that to God. That's what tithing is. And when people ask, like when spiritual teachers, leaders say, who or advise you to who to quote tithe to, right? In these types of conversations, they say, well, you need to be giving your first fruits to whoever is feeding you spiritually. That's what you're supposed to do. And so that's how I see it. I see it as, this is my spiritual journey. This comes first as far as what needs to get done. it's got to come off the top. It's got to come first. And once I have that committed, once I have that done, everything else will be added to me, meaning all the other things will get paid. Anything else where, money has to go, it will work out. Just like the concept of tithing, it's the same concept of we have to release that certain amount for God to multiply it. And that's how I look at it, is this is my spiritual work. This is how I'm getting spiritually fed. That has to be separate. I can't think of it like something else that I maybe can or can't do, or it's an option, or it's a luxury. It's not a luxury. My spiritual growth is not a luxury. It is a must. So that's how I perceive it.
That's actually brilliant to say that my spiritual work is not luxury, it's a must, because the same is for me and the same is for my clients, our people who are in a spiritual academy, my Reading Master Academy. And you even mentioned it's like bills. You have to pay the bills, and you don't think about it that should I get started, or I shouldn't get started or continue. It's the bill I have to pay. You said it yourself. I'm repeating your words.
Yeah. And you can think of it that way too. In the sense that it's just got to get done. Like, it's got to get paid. It's not an option. So when I say it's like a bill, that's what I mean. It's like, it's going back to the point of, it's not a luxury. It's not a let's think about it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I should say it here. We usually don't curse, but here it was very funny when I asked you, would you like to continue? And what did you say? F yes.
Yeah.
That was very funny. So I took the liberty to say it here.
Yeah.
But it's a great attitude, because, and the point of our right now discussion of it is, when you did it, you made the decision to continue every single time, or the decision to start when you didn't even know if you get any results whatsoever. There were no guarantees. I never guarantee anything, right? I never promise, because that's on you how you do it. I'm here to provide guidance and mentorship, but you have to do the work. And so no guarantees, no promises, very future, who knows what will happen, right? At that time, so many years ago. Now we're looking in hindsight and saying, wow, that was the best decision you've made, right? As you say, because look what it got to you.
Best decision of the last decade of my life, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And so, and the point is, you made that decision. You made it as a bill or a tithe. You have to pay it no matter what. And then you said it, everything else will be paid. Yeah. The money shows up, but that money doesn't show up prior, right? Do you agree that money doesn't show up prior? Sometimes you do have, sometimes you don't have.
Sometimes,
but even back to the first time, when the first time, when you were in that, I just can't imagine it. When you were there, I remember that moment, right? You come to me and you say, I'm here. This is what I'm having nothing, because I just quit my job. I'm starting my business. I'm starting from ground zero, right? I have nobody to support me. And so you made that decision. You made the commitment. You said yes to yourself and spiritual work. And then you never regret it, because money showed up. Not the wealth, because divine will not give you immediately wealth, because you have to earn it first. You have to process and do the work. But money came, and they were enough. And for Stacy, the queenie, we know that it's not just little. Stacy likes experiences and expensive things, and she likes to live comfortably. So I always laugh about it, because for Stacy, just enough is a little bit higher than you think. Yeah.
Yes. I still had the means for my luxury experiences.
Exactly, because God is opulent, divine is opulent.
Mhm.
There is no need to be poor. So but it's just comes in different ways. It's a spiritually based. Everything is here faith-based and spiritually based because of our hard work, right?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
different than someone that's living in fear and maybe they have millions, multi-millions, billions net worth, but they can still be living in fear.
Exactly.
So it's it's coming from that place, from the spiritual place of I will be provided and that's it. And whether or not it's sitting in the bank or not, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But it will be provided. So it's a big difference because I know a lot of very unhappy, wealthy people, and I'm not saying I don't want to be wealthy. Yeah, sure I do. But what's the movie that we just watched?
I was just thinking about it. Famous, it's now in my head. It's a famous phrase. I'm now keep repeating it every time I say something. So the phrase is, the man was a rich son of a very wealthy father, right? And so he phones the father and he says, I don't want anything to be anything like you. I'd rather be good and broke than rich and broken.
Yeah. And so it's just amazing that during this time, all the needs have been provided for and more. There's still been this overflow, but the difference is the trust and the faith. Because like I said, it might not just be sitting there tucked away for a rainy day and this false sense of security, because that is a false sense of security because it's based in fear if someone's thinking that way. But to everything has just always worked out the way that I've desired for the most part.
Exactly. And there is no broke either. There's no broke.
No,
With
no.
divine, without spiritual work, we're not broke, period.
Yeah, exactly. When you're with God, you're not broke. So
Exactly. We were talking about outside signs, right? We were talking about outer world symptoms of growth or results, right? So now we're going within. How about and I believe that's what the difference also of my mentorship or spiritual work that we're doing here. I do not teach people how to make physical money, correct? I do not tell you, go knock on doors, sell the houses, do that and this. This is not my role to say at all. I do not teach the physical ways of making money. But every client who comes here gets some kind of increase. So the teaching here is not about how to make physical money, but to change inside, which in turn brings the outer increase. And so that's why I mentioned before how you said it, I am so successful inside that I'm not going to stop because I know, it's outside reflects from on the inside. So let's talk about, you already mentioned about money, that money, we're secure, we are not scared. Money could come at last minute on the 11th hour. Why? Because divine works this way. There is no time in the divine realm. So it comes, sometimes it comes very much at the 11th hour, but it always comes. So we don't need to worry about money. We don't need to be afraid of them for the money. We don't need to be, freaking out in regular terms, right? We don't need to be anxious about it like many people in the world feel.
Yeah.
So how do you change about it? How did it change inside for you?
Yeah, it ties together in many ways, especially when I make decisions because I've been spiritually guided, then I'm more secure in those decisions. Therefore, I know that it's of God or of divine. So then I can literally be more confident to give it to God. And I've done that many times, like whatever the situation may be, big or small. Okay, the conversation is, well, God, you guided me here, so this is yours to help me resolve. And that's the change inside, because it changes how I manage emotions. It changes how I handle difficult situations. It almost makes me want to get a little emotional now.
Oh,
Just thinking of it, because it's a huge change to look back and see how there were patterns in my mentality and in my external life that were there for years, just being completely shifted and changed, because I could look back and see, oh my gosh, this is something that a pattern could have been repeated, but I feel different, and therefore I think different, and therefore I handled it different. And so then just everything completely changes. So, and it just comes down to the gradual process of trust and faith and spiritual mastery.